Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we've got three more games. No more NBA Cup action today on Thursday, but three regular NBA season games. We're going to be going through best bets in this episode. Got a bet for each game. I'm going to start flinging some props at you at the end of this episode as well, because we don't have more than three games. So we'll play that accordingly today. Also got the player props up in a separate episode, so getting a bunch of those today. Make sure to subscribe to that page so you do not miss any of these videos. We're bringing you each and every weekday now moving forward. Not a bad night last night in the NBA Cup for the kids, Nate, but we are striving for a little bit better. We'll find it today. How you feeling about today's NBA action, not NBA Cup?
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway is like these NBA Cup unders might be free money. I don't know if like the books are going to hang low numbers again the rest of the way here, but like bookmark that for next year. Like if you see a total above 223 or so, like you smash that under because these teams are playing so much harder. These should be playoff totals. And we saw 3 of the 4 go under and decisively so with that Warriors Rockets at the end there. But yeah, I will take overs here on a weird Thursday slate with everybody on extra rest. So I'll start over in the Celtics game, 227, and parlay with that with the Celtics money line or maybe an alt spread at 3.5 or so. I think they handled Detroit. I don't know if they cover 12.5, but you look at their numbers when they have extra rest, man, they just light up the scoreboard. They averaged 135 this year on 2+ days rest. Since last year, 125, and they're 29-3 straight up in those games, coming off 5 days rest here or 4 days since Saturday. Tatum's still listed as questionable. Maybe he doesn't play. Well, they're 13-4 without him, averaging 122 versus 119 when he plays since the start of last season. Not saying he's not additive in any way, but they do hit even more threes. More of an egalitarian approach, perhaps. So, and they're playing a Detroit team that is 27th in 3-point D on the year and allowing 43% in their last 3. That includes a 130-120 loss at Boston. I think the Pistons can do their part to get this over, though, because Cade is playing so much better since he came back from a little injury stint. We called him one of the least efficient players in the NBA. He had a 107 offensive rating in November. That's up to 126 here in the 4 since his return, dropping 11 dimes per game and 26 points. He had a very nice game against these Celtics. So I think he can keep their offense, in it enough to flirt with that team total is 107. Boston, if they don't have Tatum, maybe the defense takes a little ding here. But really, it's just, carry me home, Celtics at home, flinging threes against a team that can't guard the 3-point line.
Yeah, I think that's all reasonable. Yeah, the Pistons had some 3-point defense going earlier in the year. That was fool's gold. They are not that good at defending that shot, and that's what we care about here when we talk about the Celtics. I couldn't bet on any Celtics player props yet. We need to know if Jason Tatum is for sure playing, but I don't think we need to know if Jason Tatum's playing for them to handle the Pistons in this one. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to take an over in a game out here. It's actually not on the West Coast. It's in New Orleans, but we've got Sac visiting NOLA, and we've got 231.5. Why is New Orleans in the Western Conference? Anyway, Pels in their last 8. They're coming a little bit alive. And when I say they're coming alive, I mean they're getting their guards back. That's all I mean. I mean, we're talking about CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray. I always mess up the Murray brothers or the McCollum, whatever. But more importantly for this one, it's pace. Definitely pace. And this Pelicans team was so slow when they didn't really have anybody out there to run the offense. They didn't even have Jose Alvarado for a while. So they just didn't have a point guard. And their pace got really far down, but beyond what we would expect it to be. Now it's coming back to life a bit here over the course of the last 5, at least when you see them on the floor together. And we've also should mention DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, few games with fewer minutes than you would expect because they're still getting blown out by 24 to 34 points a couple times since they've been back. And that's affected their pace as a result of them not being on the floor quite as much. But still, we're talking about them going over in 4 straight because they're coming back. They've had a little bit smattering of a better offensive showing since they got back. Like I said, it hasn't been enough because their defense has still been absolutely putrid, which is great for this bet because the Kings are really coming alive into themselves, as we've seen a lot more so than they used to, than they were at the beginning of the season offseason as they figure things out. They've got the number one offensive rating in the last 5 games on the season. Their pace is up to about 14th in that time frame as well, which is actually up for them, where they were playing a little bit more slowly at the beginning of the season. I do completely just attribute that to them trying to figure out how to get DeMar DeRozan back in there and still run an offense with him that doesn't just take him out of it, but keep the pace and the transition high. But they've been looking at 127 points per game since everybody came back. DeMar missed a couple games, came back, and they've really figured it out. And I would also say they've got Malik Monk in there. And when you take Malik Monk and you replace Keon Ellis or even Kevin Huerter with Malik Monk, you've dramatically increased your offense, your playmaking, your ability to speed the ball up and go down floor. You've also just kind of made your defense a little bit worse, to be honest, right? You're taking a taller guy in Kevin Huerter and putting in Malik Monk, so he can't guard quite the same amount of guys. And more importantly, Keon Ellis is, to me, a top 5 3-point perimeter defender in the league. He's just an absolute beast and a ball hawk. And if you don't have him, your ball pressure is just not nearly as good. So if you're going to have Malik Monk out there for way more minutes and Keon Ellis for a few less, then I'm going to go ahead and take this to the over. And also just the other thing here for NOLA is that they're still a pretty much jump shooting team. And as a result, like that's where you beat Sac. Like Sac has actually been good down low. I can't believe it. But right in the restricted area and all that kind of stuff, in those areas right around the paint, they've been a lot better than their perimeter defense. And you're going to see NOLA able to hit some corner threes and some stuff like that against the Kings where they really give up a lot of points.
Yeah, I'd be eyeing Herb Jones here and Trey Murphy, right? I mean, I kind of like their lineup better when Brandon Ingram's out of there. Like we're getting near trade deadline season, and it's like he's got to go. Like, but I don't know anybody who wants him. Like his body language, his leadership, what he brings to the floor. Like he'll get his numbers, but it's just like it kind of mucks up the whole offense. So I do like NOLA here, either as an underdog at home, or to just, keep pace with this Kings team that's scoring at a real torrid pace. Like you said, when they get Monk in there over Ellis, the pace goes up. They score 9 more points per game. So that's definitely going to help there.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, we got to go back to the Heat here. Three games. Got to talk about it. I'd say it's a half unit play here, but take the points with the Raptors. Like Scotty Barnes, bad injury luck, again out a couple weeks. I think, he's probably 3 points on the spread is what books are saying. And I don't know. I mean, it's really just with the Miami Heat, it's just like a wild oscillation in terms of how much they're going to try. And then you got this off-court stuff now where Jimmy Butler has laid out 4 teams that he would like to go to, right? And so, like, how do you get your head in the game and continue this mojo when Jimmy's like, I got a foot out the door. It's all good. I mean, even in the last meeting with Toronto, he had 26 points and 2 rebounds. Shows you where his effort is at. And are you counting on that again? Like, are you counting on Miami hitting 21 threes at 40% to cover this number? Which they didn't, by the way. They covered an 8-point spread against Toronto, and they would not have covered 10.5. And it's just a classic team that like gets up for big games and gets down. Like if we can try to figure out the Miami Heat a little bit this season, they're at least showing that trend, right? They have big time performances against the Lakers, Suns, and Cavs before this little bye week, if you will. They have not covered against Detroit twice this year, Charlotte. They're 1-1 against Toronto and Indy, and like I said, they would not have covered this number against Toronto. They're 4-7 against the spread after a win, so they do kind of come back down. And Toronto, I mean, they're just always dogs, but 9 of their last 12 they've covered as dogs there. They lose by 6 points per game on the road, so that's within this margin here. And they've covered 17 to 25 overall on the season. So who's going to step into these Barnes minutes? You do have old man Kelly, the adult in the room, back here. That could help. I mean, Jacoby Walter coming off one of the best games of his career against your Knicks, and Ochai Agbaji can do a pretty good job there on whoever he's guarding. RJ has lit up Miami since he joined Toronto, 31 points a game with a 131 offensive rating. So if he stays hot, like they're not going to be able to run away from Toronto, I don't think.
I don't either, man. The only thing that gives me pause about just betting on the Raptors is that it's the Heat. And if I think they're going to zag, then they zig. But this is the play in this game. There's no question. You've got a little bit of a stars out, bets up moment with Scotty. how many times can we do stars out bets up in one season, to be fair? Like if Scotty comes and goes and comes and goes, I don't know if it's the same impact, but there is a little bit of an idea to like the next game. You're probably going to see Davion Mitchell have a good game. You're going to see the guys that come in and step up for Scotty Bonds take their talents and up them a little bit. They're going to take their effort and up it a little bit. Jacoby Walter was a name I was going to throw out there as well. So I like this. I hate the Heat. Jimmy Butler's not long for Miami. I don't know what that's going to do, how it's going to impact his play, but I just know that I'd rather have the team full of guys that I know is going to try. And man, be careful. You just called Kelly Olynyk the old man in the room, and I'm older than him. So where are we at right now these days? That's crazy to think about. Let me throw some props at you guys because I don't really want to have to try to find a new angle in one of these other three games. And you know I don't touch the Heat, so I'm not going there. Props that I would consider, two quick ones, rapid fire. Cade Cunningham, rebounds and assists. I ain't going to try to get deep on this one. This is pure hit rate and him loving to play the Boston Celtics. The rebound chances, the potential assists, they've remained super high. We're looking at about 15 for each of them in the last roughly 11 games where he's gone over in like 10 of 11. So that's number one. The ball's in his hands. He's got that ball in his hands way more than anybody else on his team, and really a higher percentage than everybody in the league except for James Harden in terms of having the ball in his hands and the touches that he has when he's on the floor. Cade Cunningham is up there. So I think he's going to keep doing that against Boston. The hit rate is awesome. And you mentioned my boy Agbaji. I think Agbaji is probably going to be good for a couple threes, and you can still get that for like plus 130. So for him to hit 2 threes at like plus 130 to plus 140, like, come on now. He's a corner three shooter against a team that gives up spot up and corner three stuff. And here's what's really interesting about Ochai. It's just all threes for him when he's playing without Scotty Barnes and IQ. There's really nothing else for him. If you look at his minutes on the floor this season, where he's playing with Grady Dick and Davion Mitchell more as the primary ball handlers in the backcourt alongside him, when he does that, he's actually hitting 2 threes per 36 minutes, but he's only scoring about 11 points in 36. So he's getting like a couple of shots off of non-threes, and the rest of them are all threes. I expect him to take about 5 here. So if he's going to take 5 threes in this game, and he's going to be the better spot-up shooter, that's that last part of that, is that Grady Dick is actually going to be less of a spot-up shooter in this game than people might be expecting, because he doesn't have a true point guard to get him the ball after breaking down the defense. As a result, he's actually now the team leader in pull-up shots per game is Grady Dick when they're off the floor. So be careful, because he's got the third most pull-up shots per game. The Heat are a defense that you want to target spot-up shooters. That's why I'm going to Ochai before I even go to Grady Dick's props tonight.
Yeah, and he's given up the highest assist-to field goal ratio during this 3-game win streak. Yeah, so that like shows you where the spot-ups are going to be. They're definitely not going to be, sticking to Ochai like glue here. I mean, he is not proven to be that kind of knockdown shooter, so he's going to have his opportunities. And he is a good bet, I think, for a couple threes. As far as Cade goes, I mean, Celtics generally limit this type of player, but not him. Yeah, I mean, he comes to play with it against this team, and Drew Holiday taking on a bigger load on offense lately, so maybe he doesn't have as much energy on the defensive side.
And maybe no Tatum. I didn't ask you that. Do you think Tatum plays? Last question before we get out of here.
Yeah, I think he'll play.
Okay.
I think he wants the MVP. I think he'll be out there.
Okay. Yeah, no reason to have a random rest day just because it's the Pistons, who, by the way, are in playoff hunt right now. So just keep that in mind. But that's all the time we have for you guys in Best Bets. Continue to follow along and subscribe to that page so you can check out the Play of Props episode we also have up for you each and every weekday. And until we see you next, happy betting.